Here we go. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to the first Wapiti live Q&A for 2024. I was sitting there yesterday and I was looked at Liz and I was like, "Oh crap, I'm broadcasting tomorrow night." She goes, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I have no clue." And so we were watching a movie, and so I came upstairs after the movie and I went to Ask Socrates. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that website. So Ask Socrates, you can go in there and you can type in any subject, and it'll pull up questions that people are asking on the internet. And it starts, who, what, when, where, how, why, all kinds of stuff. And I was sitting there and I saw a common question pop up over and over again. And I said, that's probably the number one question that I get asked all the time. How often should I call? So that's tonight's discussion. Because really, people think it's a simple question. How often should I call? And they're expecting the answer to be, oh, once every 3 minutes or once every 10 minutes but there are so many variables within that question that it's really not a simple question, because really the answer to that question is going to change not only from day to day and situation to situation, but it could change from hour to hour within a day. So we're going to kind of walk through kind of some different things and talk about rule of thumbs that I do for how often I should call. And of course, there's other parameters. Is it early in the season? Is it late in the season? Are you just starting your hunt? Are you on your last couple of days of your hunt? So all these variables factor in. So we're going to first talk about locating and how often you should call. And this is one thing that another question that kind of piggybacks on this is, well, how far should I move before I do another locating sequence? So a location sequence, typically, how often do I call? I will do 2 to 3 soft cow sounds, and I'll wait a couple of minutes. And then I'll do a couple more cow sounds through the tube to project it out just a little bit farther. So what I'm doing is I'm starting close and then I'm working out based on the volume of my calls. If again, wait 2, 3 minutes. And I'll tell you what, 3 minutes sometimes can seem like an eternity unless you've been hiking up a very steep incline and you really have no wind in your lungs. And then 3 minutes feels like that because you have to make another sound and you have no air in your lungs. So time, I think, really does go at different speeds. But so if no response after I projected the cow sounds out farther, now I'm going to do my first bugle. And I'm going to wait again 2, 3 minutes, and then I'm going to do another locate bugle. Wait 2, 3 minutes, and then I'm going to do my third locate bugle. And I know there's in the sequence module there is the location sequence, so you can see exactly how I progress through those and what those sounds are. Now, if something, can you guys hear the person with separation anxiety out the door?
I couldn't figure out which of you had the cat.
I was trying to figure out what it was.
This is the one that adopted us. In fact, I came back from a hunt early in September, and here's this cat in the driveway. And so she was pretty emancipated. So we have been feeding her and getting her back to health. And so she's definitely my cat, but sometimes when she wants that human time, she gets separation anxiety. So now I've done my locate. And now, how far am I going to move? That really depends, and I talk about that in the module for the locating sequence. Best thing is just go watch that module because I'll kind of answer that question on how far to move. So that's kind of my day. with the locating sequence. It's usually 2 to 3 minutes in between each sound. Now, the variables that play into that, if I get a response, I'm not going to wait 2, 3 minutes. I'm going to throw an answer back. And this is where you start fishing. Because if that bull responded on the cow sound, I'm going to do a cow sound again, see if he answers again. Then I'm going to inject a bull sound to see how he responds to the bull sound. So I'm already taking that bull's temperature. So if I know that that bull responded to cow sounds twice and has not responded to a bugle, I'm going to go back and do another cow sound again to test. If he responds again, there's a 99% chance that I am not going to bugle at all to this guy, because I know this guy's cow hunting. He's looking for cows. That's his mindset. He's already given me the information on what he's looking for based on his responses. So at that point, if I've got a good location of where he's at, I'm going quiet, moving in and getting in within his bubble and setting up. So, okay. Early season. How often do I call? Again, there's a lot of variables in here. If it's a vocal day in the woods, meaning I'm hearing birds, I'm hearing squirrels, I can hear other bulls bugling off in the distance, I am going to call more frequently. Now, mind you, this is once we've reached our destination. We didn't locate a bull on our locating. We got to our destination. We're kind of setting up, doing blind calling routines. Then I'm going to get into the rhythm of the sequence, whether I'm doing the inviting cow routine or the breeding sequence. For those of you that are watching this replay, if you're wondering what the inviting cow routine is or the breeding sequence, go to the module on sequences and have both of those sequences in there. Those are two of my most favorite calling sequences. Now, again, if it's a vocal day in the woods, like I said, birds singing, squirrels chirping, I can hear bulls bugling off in the distance, I'm going to call more often. Now, actually, if I can hear bulls bugling in the distance, there's a good chance I'm not going to stay where I'm at. I'm going to cover ground and head towards where I'm hearing those bugles. So, but if I'm not hearing bugles, again, I'm going to let the birds and the squirrels tell me how often I need to call. So if they're vocal, I'm going to be vocal. And within the sequences, you'll hear me in the modules, you'll hear me talk in the sequences about how I start small and I build up the excitement and ramp it up. So when I'm first going, I do have a little bit longer gap. And then as I build the excitement, then I start shortening that gap. Now, if I'm in the routine and I start getting the bull responding and interested, so let's say I just finished a sequence and I had been waiting a minute and a half before I went again. If I finished a sequence and a bull bugles, I'm not waiting that minute and a half. I'm going right into the next sequence. I'm going to play off him. Now, if I do that next sequence and he doesn't respond, then I'm going to go back to waiting the minute and a half. Now, anytime that I'm waiting in that minute and a half, if he pipes off, I'm immediately going to answer. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky, because what I will do, if I do that a couple of times, he bugles, I respond, then he doesn't respond, especially if I'm doing the inviting cow routine, then I'm like, all right, buddy, you want to play hard to get? I'm going to play hard to get. And so I start playing his game to where he responds, I ignore him. If I'm in my minute and a half break and he bugles at 20 seconds, this is after I've responded to him 2-3 times. As soon as he bugled, I immediately did the next sequence, but then he had that pause. Did it again, he had the pause. Did it again, he had the pause. Okay, so now I do my next sequence, or I do my next call pack within the sequence, within the routine, and 15, 20 seconds after I get done, he bugles. I'm waiting my minute and a half because now I'm playing hard to get. Now you're kind of conveying that message of, you know what, dude, I was interested in you. And obviously, you were texting some other girl and you didn't make me feel appreciated. So I'm going to make you think about your actions a little bit. So, because women never do that kind of stuff to guys much. Okay, maybe they do. So, but it's kind of throwing that same thing back at him. And what you'll find out, have you guys ever heard the term FOMO?
Homo?
FOMO.
If I heard it, I don't recall what it was.
FOMO stands for fear of missing out.
Oh,
So it's a marketing term. You know, you put urgency in your marketing. You make somebody feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this now, I'm going to miss out on this. This is kind of what you're doing with this bull. Is you're kind of instilling FOMO in him. And this is where you could do that little test. Now, remember, I said if he responded to cow sounds, there's a 99% chance I'm not going to bugle, right? This is a great time that if I start ignoring him and he starts piping off a little bit more of, hey, where are you? That's where I might do a little huff, grunt, and whine. Nothing too loud, nothing intense, just a little huff, grunt, and whine. And a lot of times that could be the one thing that now all of a sudden devotes that bull's complete attention on what you're doing. Now, after that huff, grunt, and whine, you're going to do a cow sequence, and then boom, man, he's answering you every time now. And so now you're just going back and forth. Now it's kind of start playing, okay, where is he? Is he holding his ground? Is he coming to me? What kind of bugle is he giving to me? You know, is he just over there hitting me with a roundup bugle, telling me to come to him? And now this is when you start making your plays and your calls. And it's like, okay, he's sat in the same place for 5 minutes now and he's hit me with 4 roundup bugles. He's not coming to me. I'm 175 yards from him. I'm going to cut the distance in half. So I go quiet and cut the distance in half. And at first, I'm moving fairly quick until I know I'm starting to get close. And then I really slow down because I really want to be scanning. Because there are times that those sneaky little boogers will decide that they're just going to start coming to you silently as you're heading towards them silently. Then once I get to that halfway mark, I'm not going to start back over in that inviting cow and ramp it up. I'm going to stay at the level that I was. So the level of excitement that I was, I'm going to stay right there and ramp up from there. So, and again, at that point, if he's responding, we're going back and forth, we're having a communication. If he goes back to kind of being quiet, then you're going to slow your pace back down again. Your pace is matching his pace. So now, if you've worked this bull for a little while, he's still just kind of hanging back there, then you can make the decision. You know what? I'm going to back out. I'm going to mark this guy. I'm going to back out. And I'm going to come back in on him in a couple of days to see if his excitement level is a little more ramped up. Now, this is where you have to make the call of, is this early in your hunt or is this towards the tail end of your hunt? Because if it's in early in your hunt, the smart play is to back out because he's a little interested, but he's not fully interested. You give him a couple of days, come back in, and he could go from just a lukewarm to piping hot, and it might only take you 5 minutes to get that bull in your lap. If you choose to stay there and press him while he's lukewarm, you run the chance of bumping him out. And then it's like, okay, I had an elk located. Well, now I bumped him out. Okay, we're going to need to go find another one. Now, if it's later in your hunt, then you can make that call of, you know what, I'm going to put pressure on this dude. I'm just going to Hail Mary. I'm going to pressure him. I'm just going to really ramp up the excitement. And this is where if you have a hunting partner with you and the tandem version of the inviting cow routine, man, just really, really raises the temperature of the area and forces him into getting more excited because it creates that FOMO. Because now all of a sudden, holy crap, there's not just one here, there's two or three cows here with no bull. This is going to be easy. So, okay. So that's early in the year. Middle of the year, and this is I'm kind of talking, you know, September 10th through the 15th, kind of that middle week. This week is usually pretty quiet in the woods. So, because early in the season, you have bulls that are establishing their pecking order and rounding up cows. So they tend to be a little bit more vocal. But then you get this window in the middle where there's not much action. There's not much calling. And it's usually because the bulls have already rounded up their cows. They're in their little groups and they're just waiting for the first cow to come into cycle. Now, this is where patience really comes into play because a lot of times in this window, you're doing a lot of blind calling routines. And Jim, if I remember right, in your testimonial, you said you were doing the blind calling routine for what, 45 minutes
45 minutes,
before that bull came in at 6 yards?
not a sound. He didn't make a noise. And all of a sudden I look up and I saw antlers coming out. My wife was sitting down there and I called him to 6 yards from her.
That's awesome.
Yep, 45 minutes.
Would you say that in that 45-minute time frame that you were really slow and methodical and pacing out your calls, not really?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had a watch on and I was watching it. Yeah, no pun intended. And every 5 minutes, I
yeah,
do 2 or 3 cow calls,
yep.
and then just shut. And then, like you said, it seems like it's an eternity for 5 minutes.
And that's why it's really good to have your watch or your cell phone, something that you can keep track of the time. Because you will be sitting there and you will be like, oh, I know for a fact that it's been 10 minutes. It feels like 10 minutes and you look and it's just barely over 2 minutes. You're not even halfway to 5 minutes yet, but it feels like an eternity. Now, for those of you that are watching this replay, you might be thinking to yourself, man, if I'm using a watch and I'm calling methodically every 5 minutes, isn't that robotic? Isn't that? And it really isn't, because the reason being is one time you may only do two cow sounds. The next time on 5 minutes, you might do three, four, or five cow sounds. It's not three cow sounds, wait 5 minutes, three cow sounds, wait 5 minutes, three cow sounds, wait 5 minutes. You're still varying your cow sounds. The only consistency is that you're waiting 5 minutes, and and in fact, um, one of the 6 points that I have hanging downstairs. I think it was 2019 when I shot him. This was a guy that I had called in 3 times that season, and that last time, I had Bryce and Kelly. We were all basically set up. Now, mind you, I had already called this bull in twice. I knew his pattern. I knew which way he came in. So I happened to set myself in that path where he was coming, but I set the other two up just in case he had changed, because I called him in twice in the same spot, same path, same everything. This guy, I started doing the breeding sequence. And in my mind, I thought, you know what, he's going to come in on one of the wings. He's already come down this chute twice. He's already come around that fallen log twice. He's already done this, and each time it was with the breeding sequence. And so I'm more focused on the wings. And I mean, I just start on the breeding sequence and telling the story. And I remember when we walked up to him when he was dead, Bryce was kind of shaking his head, and I said, "What are you shaking your head about?" And he goes, "Dude," he goes, "you showed so much patience in working that bull." And I said, you gotta remember one important thing on all of this. We can't make a bull do anything. We can't make him come in faster. We can't make him do things. We need to stick to telling our story and doing our sequences until he decides that it's gonna time to come in. And that's the funny thing too, because when he decides, it could either be a slow, methodical walk in, stopping and scanning with ears and eyes and nose multiple times on his way in, or his decision to come in can be a freight train and I'm going to run through everything and run over everything. I don't care if there's something in my way. That's one thing that makes it so cool about calling elk. So, but during that middle portion of the month, patience is the hypercritical thing. I mean, patience is still important early in the year and later in the year when you're doing these sequences, but especially in that September 10th to September 15th, because like I said, those bulls have their cows. They're just waiting for a cow to come in estrus. And this is why the breeding sequence is so effective. It's, starting this time of year, because it's going to take a little bit to convince that bull that you really do have a hot cow. And he's going to have to sit there and listen. He's going to have to decide that you really do have a hot cow. Then he's going to have to run around and scent check all of his cows. Then he needs to take inventory of, are his cows safe? How far away are you? Can he get over to check you out and check that hot cow without another bull slipping in and taking his cows from him? So there's a lot of boxes that have to check. And this is why the patience. And this is where a lot of new callers make the mistake, is they're in that sequence, they're telling their story, and that bull bugles. And it could just be a little bedding bugle or this or that, nothing extraordinary. But a lot of new callers will abandon telling their stories and switch their focus on that bull and start calling to that bull. At that point, you've lost them. Your chance of calling him in. And in fact, a lot of times he's just going to scoop up his cows and push them out the back door and push them away from you. That's why it's critical to have the patience and stay within your story. Now, you're still going to do the same thing as far as how often do you call. You're going to start slow and you're going to build it up and build that excitement. So when you first start, it could be 2, 3, 4 minutes in between your first sounds. And remember, you're going to be set up here for an hour. Again, the calling sequences module, we talk about blind calling and staying put for an hour. We've also talked about this in some past live Q&As. You're committing to an hour of being there. And so you're going to start off with 2, 3, 4 minutes in between your cow sounds. But by the time you get down to the end of that hour and you've really ramped up the excitement, you might only be 30 seconds in between. And that's where building up that excitement. So, so again, the variables are going to change about how often do you call. So now, last part of the season. Now you're in peak rut time. You're okay to not wait as long. You're okay to call more often if the forest is noisy. But if you're out there on a quiet day, no birds are chirping, no squirrels barking, nothing, you need to pay attention to that. And I know we've talked about this quite a bit, about being aware of your surroundings and matching how long you wait in between calls based on your surroundings. So if it's a noisy forest day, go ahead, be excited. So again, especially if you're doing the breeding sequence, you're going to start small and ramp it up. So you're starting small. You might be at this point only a minute, minute and a half in between. And then you're ramping up to where you're 30 seconds in between, or back and forth, where you're doing a back and forth where you're the cow and you're the bull back and forth, and there is no real break. So, but you can do that to where you're back and forth for, say you do that for 5 minutes, then go ahead and take a break of a couple of minutes. And trust me, if you're doing a full-blown excited breeding sequence for 5 minutes, you are going to need that 2 minute break to get a drink of water, get saliva back in your mouth, maybe swap out a diaphragm reed for a different one, because that one you've been using is absolutely soaked with saliva. So now, there's been a lot of times at that last part of the season where I really ramped up that excitement, where I don't have a big break, and then all of a sudden start getting some bugles. That's where you kind of got to make a decision. So I will go ahead and keep with the excitement to see if he bugles again, because again, I want to see, is he stationary or is he moving my way? If he's moving my way and I have a good setup to where I can control the doorways that he's coming in, I'm going to stay right there, because I have all the advantage. I have the control. I know the setup. I know where my shooter's at. I know how I can move around to control where that dude's coming in. Unfortunately, though, if he's staying put after 5 minutes, if he hasn't committed, I'm going to shorten that distance. And then I'm going to set up. And again, I'm going to pick and choose, because far too many times where it's moving towards him and you just get caught in a bad spot. It's not a good setup. Remember, setups are your most critical piece. So as you're moving towards him, you have a good idea of where he's at. And there's actually a really cool tool on X for guessing where he's at. Have you guys seen this new tool? Okay. So let's see. Why is this? For some reason. Hmm. Well, hold on. It's telling me that I need to do an update because it's not giving me my tools. Okay. So I will do a tutorial on this because it is not showing me my tools. So anyways, there's a tool on X that's kind of cool. You can hit a button and then all of a sudden it shows this rangefinder. And so you're looking at your map and you're like, okay, I think that bull is there. You hit this rangefinder and it comes up with this grid. And then you can kind of touch where you think that bull is. And then all of a sudden it'll tell you how far out that is. It's 400 yards, it's 600 yards, it's
Well,
300 yards. And then what's kind of cool is you can keep that and you can start moving towards it and you can lock it in to where it will pinpoint that. And then you can follow that right into where he's at. And then you know, okay, I'm 100 yards from where I think he was, and then set up. So,
Mm.
but I'll do a tutorial on that since my phone. In fact, I'll restart my phone and then do so. Okay, so does that kind of answer some questions about how often should I call?
Absolutely. And actually, when I did that calling routine, and brought that bull in, that wasn't the only one. I brought in the other bulls doing the same thing.
Oh, really?
If I had the rump, the cow rump,
Yep.
he would have come right. He would have come right to us as he walked out 75 yards away, and he was just staring, trying to find where that. I mean, we had cow tags, so I mean,
It's still,
he had
still
nothing. That didn't make another one that didn't make a noise.
early in the year.
Yeah, it was September, and then they weren't hollering at all that year, really.
Yeah.
Uh, September, I don't know, I can't remember, but yeah, around the 10th or 11th, somewhere in there, 12th, 13th,
Yeah.
something like that.
In early season, that's kind of typical. You get a lot more silent call-ins. I mean, I know everybody wants the Bugle Fest because I mean it's an adrenaline rush and it's a lot of fun. But I have more fun calling in bulls than anything. I don't care if they come in silent and I don't know how many times I've been caught not ready, not expecting, and then all of a sudden it's there he is, and it's like, really? So, uh,
Yeah, that happens.
oh, it happens a lot. But that's the fun of it is you never know. You never know what direction they're going to come in from. You never know when they're going to come in. I mean that bull 2 years ago, I mean, what, 26, 27 minutes after leaving the truck and had that bull at 24 yards, 25 yards. And I mean, he didn't make a peep. I just happened to see a flash of tan come down off the soft ridge, and then all of a sudden, there he was, little raghorn, and in fact, I mean, Bryce and I just got done joking around with each other in the meadow because he told me I sucked, and I hit him with the grunt tube. So um, it's just one of those things. Just never know. So to answer the number one question, how often should I call? It's, well, that depends.
Variable.
Yes. So, and that's where, and you can follow your gut on it too. If your gut is telling you to call, then call. If your gut's telling you, man, I need to be quiet, then be quiet. So listen to that little internal voice, but to a degree. So, because there are those times that we will become very, very impatient, and that little voice is telling us, you need to call again, you need to call again, you need to create some excitement, you need to do this, you need to do this. And really the smarter play is patience. And I wish I could say there was an exact science down to the second, but there really isn't. I mean, it's gathering all the information of everything that's happening around you, and this is where tuning in to what's happening around you will make you a better out caller. So being aware of your surroundings and pay attention to everything. There's a lot of times too, if we're out there and it's kind of quiet, one of the first things I do is check barometric pressure. Is barometric pressure, is it above 39? Is it rising? Is it falling? Do we have a storm front coming in? So I'll open up the app and look at barometric pressure, and I'll also look at weather forecast. So because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, Now I understand what's going on. Barometric is rising. We have a front coming in. They're kind of hunkering down. They're heading to areas to, where they can get out of the storm or weather the storm that's coming. And again, that's going to get you in that mindset of thinking like an elk instead of thinking like a human. So, okay, that's
Oh,
it.
I got that game call I was telling you about.
Oh, the
Uh,
e-collar?
yeah, and I loaded the three out calls, cow calls, and one bull.
Yeah.
Dude, and I did it. I tried it, man. And you can adjust the volume, however you want it, loud, soft, whatever. And it sounded really, really pretty good. So because there's three different cow calls.
Good.
What makes the forest go quiet?
So it could be a lot of things. It could be a storm front coming in. It could be predators in the area. Majority of the time, it is a storm front coming in. So barometric pressure. So that's one thing that I've learned over the years. If the barometric pressure gets over 39, elk just do not bugle. Also, too, if you're in an area that's really heavy air and it's just dead, there's no echo, get out of there. Don't spend time in there. Elk don't bugle if they can't hear echoes. It's again, there's no exact science on that. That's just from my personal experience.
Hmm.
And nice thing is Bryce and Brandon have hunted with me long enough that if we get to a spot and we locate it's dead, we'll just look at each other and go dead air. Let's keep going. So we don't waste time in there. Now again, those variables could change because we could move 200 yards and now all of a sudden we have an echo and that air pressure has changed. So but yeah, typically forest goes quiet, barometric pressure is going up, storms coming in.
What do you do when you've got a squirrel that just will not shut up?
Shoot it, shoot it.
Decide if you want to spend $12.
Yeah, loss of an arrow.
Yep. There have been times too where I pulled my pistol out of my chest pack and you know
I turn the laser light on the pistol and try to get him in the eye.
Yeah, they're annoying. Monarch of the forest. You think something really big is walking up behind you? It's a stupid squirrel.
Yeah.
we don't have it as bad as eastern hunters though. I mean, you hear all the time of eastern hunters in the whitetail stand and they're just hearing all these leaves rustling and they're getting excited and then they realize that it's a squirrel. So, of course, some of their deer are about the same size as the squirrels we have out here in the West. So for all you Eastern guys, I'm just joking. Okay, well, that's it on how often to call. So, um, making progress on switching over and getting the new platform set up. When it gets to the switch over, so the new platform, in fact, I have a phone call with them Friday and they're going to show me how to take all you guys and gravitate you into the new platform. And then you will get an email with new login credentials on the new platform. And so you'll still go to elkcallingacademy.com because when I make the switch, I'm going to do it on a Friday or Saturday and I'm going to do it late at night. So, because sometimes when I switch the domain over, there's a little bit of a lag. And so if I do it in the middle of the night, then it should have time to switch over. But you guys will get the emails. You'll have a temporary password in that. You'll just log in and then you can go into your account and you can update your password to what you want it to be, but it should be a smooth transition, nice and seamless. And the only thing you guys are going to see differently is when you log in, the interface and everything is going to look different, and also the course, how it's laid out, is going to look different. So
Cool.
yeah. So and in fact, I've already started redoing some of the new videos, and I recorded some videos for the marketing that getting ready to kick off. But I bought a teleprompter and I'm writing out scripts because too many times when I record these videos, I do it out in the mountains and then I get home and I'm like, dang it, I forgot to talk about this. I forgot to talk about that. I forgot. And so it ends up 2 or 3 weekends before before I get the video with all the pieces. So now have the teleprompter and can make sure that I include all the components in all of those. Going through footage and grabbing real elk for that practice. I'm probably going to wait until the new platform to plug all those in. So since I'm going to have to re-upload everything into the new format anyways. So
Busy time.
it is, but I think I I'm excited for it. So I really like the way everything's laid out on this, and I think you guys are too, because it's a whole lot easier to find the modules, find the specific chapters. I mean, everything's all on the left hand side. And I mean, module 3 is cow sounds on an open read. Oh, yeah, I want to learn about um, regathering muse on an open read. There's the module. Oh man, there's that lesson right there. Bang, hit it. If you want to go back and watch a specific lesson, you know exactly which module. It's just it's a lot easier to find information.
Looking forward to it.
So.
Good, good.
All right, guys. Well, now that the separation anxiety has given up and probably gone back downstairs with mom, we will wrap this up and I'll go downstairs and represent my lap to her so that way she can get her human lap time in. So, but
My 2 kids were up on my lap, so there you have it.
I know I saw the heads poking up in the corner there. So, appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. As always, keep calling, keep practicing, and more importantly, though, have fun. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks for the next episode of Wapiti Live Q&A.
See you, Greg.
Have a
See
good
ya.
night, guys.
See you, Michael.
Bye.
Guys.